The Inquisition merely performs the duty of its office. To further fear them is redundant, to hate them heretical. Those more sensible will place responsibility with those who force their hands. Captain Gabriel Angelos, Blood Ravens, chapter After the Exterminatus of Typhon Primaris. Formerly known as the Holy Orders of the Emperor's Inquisition, the Inquisition is a covert organization that operates outside the standard administrative hierarchy of the Imperium of Man. It serves as the secret police and primary intelligence service, tasked with rooting out and eliminating all threats to the stability of the God Emperor's realm. These threats include corruption from the forces of chaos, heretics, mutants, rebels, and assaults from dangerous alien species such as the Tyranids, Orcs, and Drukhari. Many Inquisitors see themselves as answerable only to the High Lords of Terror and the Emperor himself. However, in practice, there exists a class of high-echelon Imperial servants to which Inquisitors belong, all wielding considerable political influence. This group includes Imperial planetary governors, sector lords, Astra Militarum generals, Space Marine, chapter masters, ecclesiarchy cardinals, rogue traders, Adeptus Mechanicus Archmagi, Navis Imperialis Lord Admirals, Adeptus Arbites judges, and sector-level representatives of the Adeptus Administratum. Relationships among these groups are often fraught with rivalry and bitterness, and even within each group, deadly conflicts may arise over influence and power. The Inquisition itself is not immune to internal strife. The Inquisition's infamous sigil derives from the personal heraldry of Malcador, the Regent of Terror during the Great Crusade, and the Horus Heresy, and the second most powerful psyker in the Imperium after the Emperor. Malcador, on the Emperor's orders, created the organization that would become the Inquisition at the start of the heresy. The Emperor had tasked him with gathering individuals of an inquisitive nature to hunt down the enemies of the Imperium, both internal and external. The Inquisition is divided into three major orders, or Ordos Majoris, and numerous minor ones, or Ordos Minoris, each dedicated to confronting specific threats to the Imperium's survival. Ordo Malleus. Its inquisitors, along with their chamber militant, the Grey Knights, confront and defeat the forces of chaos and other threats from beyond Imperial space. Ordo Xenos. Supported by the Deathwatch Space Marines, this order defends the Imperium from alien threats beyond its borders. Ordo Hereticus. With the Adeptus Sororitas' orders, militant as its chamber militant, the Ordo Hereticus combats internal threats to the Imperium such as heretics and traitors. In the 41st millennium, the Inquisition is the most powerful organization within the Imperium. Inquisitors command immense fear and respect, seen as mythical beings who pass judgment on mutants, traitors, and heretics. Imperial citizens from the poorest underhive scum to the wealthiest nobles dread drawing an Inquisitor's attention, having heard tales of their ruthless judgment. Those who survive an encounter with an Inquisitor are rarely eager to invite their scrutiny again. Inquisitors vary widely in appearance and demeanor, ranging from young zealots to veteran warriors with centuries of experience. Some display their status with ostentatious robes and symbols, while others prefer to remain inconspicuous. They commonly carry a wide array of weapons and gear to prepare for any threat. Some even wield exotic weaponry acquired from defeated foes, including alien guns and demon-possessed artifacts. Inquisitors pay little heed to morality or the Imperium's numerous laws and procedures, except when it suits their purposes. They are the Emperor's left hand, as the Adeptus Terror is his right, and they wield judgment over all the Imperium's organizations and citizens. By ancient tradition, their authority comes directly from the Emperor himself, and they answer to no hierarchy, being accountable only to their peers. Inquisitors can requisition assistance from any servant of the Imperium, from the lowest clerk to entire Space Marine chapters and Imperial Navy battle fleets. Their ultimate goal is the survival of humanity, not personal survival, as they understand that one life is insignificant on a galactic scale. Inquisitors possess a cold-hearted pragmatism, more fervid than even the most devout ecclesiarchy adepts. They are arbiters of absolute truth, unconcerned with tradition, past blamelessness, or ignorance. Their focus is on the deeds of the moment and the far-reaching consequences of seemingly insignificant acts. though learned inquisitors do not hold an all-encompassing store of knowledge and certainty, as even the most experienced among them possess only a fraction of the Emperor's wisdom. Despite their numbers, the threats they face are so vast that even 10 times their number could not achieve lasting victory or meaningful respite. Inquisitors confront a myriad of threats: demons waiting beyond the Emperor's light, alien invaders subverting and destroying worlds, and internal human threats working towards their own destruction. They alone have the breadth of vision and authority to recognize and address these dangers. While a planetary governor might see only an insurrection, an inquisitor sees the heresy underlying it. They have the resources to root out alien conspiracies, bureaucratic corruption, and gene seed deviances within Space Marine chapters. With keen insight, an inquisitor can detect incipient disaster and act preemptively, either personally or through the Officio Assassinorum. However, their efforts often target cataclysms already in motion, requiring the Astra Militarum or the horror of exterminators to end. Inquisitors will go to any lengths to fulfill their duty, employing extreme measures if necessary. They understand that sacrificing billions of blameless souls to eliminate a single guilty individual is justified if it ensures humanity's survival. While many inquisitors mourn the destruction they cause, knowing it serves a greater purpose, others have become emotionally detached, treating their actions with the same indifference as sweeping pieces from a gaming board. Nonetheless, acts of mercy do occur, as most inquisitors recognize the possibility of redemption, valuing present virtue over past evils. Lesser men might believe the means matter more than the end, but inquisitors know better. In another time or place they might be seen as monstrous, but in the 41st millennium, morality and compassion are luxuries the Imperium cannot afford. Though steeped in atrocity, inquisitors are often the heroes their grim times demand. The Inquisition's past is shrouded in secrecy, with even its members having only a vague understanding of its origins. The Ordo Originatus seeks to unravel 10 millennia of myths and lies, while the Ordo Redactus obscures the past to prevent enemies from gaining an advantage. Most legends agree that the Inquisition was formed by Malcador on the Emperor's orders during the final days of the Horus heresy. Malcador, the Regent of Terra, was tasked with gathering dedicated imperial servants whose loyalty, courage, and strength of mind were unquestioned. He chose 12 individuals, including 8 loyal Space Marines and 4 mortal imperial lords and administrators who became the initial core of the Grey Knights and the Inquisition. They were secretly brought through enemy lines to the Imperial Palace during the Siege of Terra, the final campaign of the heresy. These were individuals of impeccable loyalty, determination, and mental fortitude, chosen to serve the Emperor in the challenging years ahead. Beyond this account, the legends diverge, assigning various identities to each of the 12 individuals, some absurd, many plausible, but all unverifiable. The foundations of the Inquisition were laid by the 4 mortal lords and administrators chosen by Malcador, while the Grey Knights, the first and most potent of the Inquisition's chambers militant, were formed from the 8 loyalist Astartes. The origins of the Inquisition remain shrouded in mystery and are a topic of much debate among imperial scholars. While the existence of the Inquisition is widely known across the galaxy, its deeds are nearly impossible to trace. Records are sealed, restricted, or destroyed. Witnesses are silenced, mind-wiped by telepaths, or summarily executed. Yet for those who know where to look, the signs are evident. Many imperial scholars believe that the Inquisition played a crucial role in significant events such as the Second Founding, the Beheading, and the fall of Nova Terra. There are gaps in official records indicating that entire branches of the Adeptus Terra have been eradicated in the past, and who but the Inquisition would have the authority to do so and then cover it up? Most who seek the Inquisition's past spend a lifetime without finding proof, and those who do often vanish. Some attract the attention of an inquisitor, their skills deemed useful for advancing the Inquisition's goals. Most simply perish, their bodies discovered in compromising circumstances that tarnish their reputations. The Inquisition watches over the Imperium and does not appreciate being watched in return. It is generally accepted that the Inquisition solidified into its modern form around the middle of the 32nd millennium, following the formal establishment of the imperial cult as the state religion approximately 800 Terran years after the Horus heresy. However, its essential components and apparatus, such as the black ships and the witch hunters of the Sisters of Silence, were active during the Great Crusade before the heresy. Newly uncovered sources suggest that the Inquisition had 12 key founders active before, during, and after the Great Crusade. As mentioned earlier, the Emperor ordered his regent Malcador to gather individuals of unwavering loyalty and devotion to seek out the hidden enemies of humanity. Malcador presented 12 such individuals to the Emperor just before the Siege of Terra, 4 mortal Imperial administrators and 8 space marines drawn from his special agents, the Knights Errant. These Knights Errant were loyalists gathered by Malcador from the remaining loyalist Astartes legions, or those who had escaped their traitor legions after the massacre at Istvan III. These 8 Astartes would become the first Grey Knights, the chamber militant of the Inquisition's Ordo Malleus, the Demon Hunters. Originally, the Inquisition was a unified organization dedicated to fighting chaos corruption within imperial space. In the 32nd millennium, following the War of the Beast and the near destruction of Terra by the Orcs under the warlord known as the Beast, the Inquisition was divided into 2 major orders, or ordos: the Ordo Malleus, which continued the mission of combating chaos, and the newly formed Ordo Xenos, dedicated to protecting humanity from alien threats. The Ordo Xenos received the Death Watch, an alliance of space marines from various chapters originally created to fight the Orcs as its chamber militant, while the Grey Knights continued to serve the Ordo Malleus. A third major ordo, the Ordo Hereticus, was established within the Inquisition after the Age of Apostasy in the 36th millennium to prevent future occurrences like the Reign of Blood and the Plague of Unbelief. This ordo was assigned the Orders Militant of the Adepta Sororitas as its chamber militant, and tasked with rooting out all enemies of the God Emperor within the Imperium's political, religious and economic structures, including rogue psychers, mutants and other renegades. Members of the Ordo Hereticus are often referred to as witch hunters for this reason. You cannot deny mankind the Emperor. He and the empire he has built are mankind's only chance of survival. Promius, during a secret conclave of the 4 founders of the Inquisition, following the Emperor's ascension. The ideal of restoring the Emperor to the Imperium in mortal form is central to the Inquisition's founding. Following Horus's invasion of Terra and the Emperor's confinement to the Golden Throne, the empire he had built was in turmoil, reeling from the civil war and the Emperor's ascension. 4 trusted mortal servants of the Emperor, who had played pivotal roles in building his galactic empire, convened to discuss the future. They were divided in their opinions. 2 believed that the fledgling Imperium could not survive without the Emperor's direct leadership, while the other 2 insisted that the Emperor had ascended to a higher plane and that it was futile to interfere with the course of events. The 2 resurrectionists, known only as Promius and Moriana, left Terra to pursue their quest to bring back the Emperor. Meanwhile, the remaining 2 acted swiftly to establish themselves within the newly formed Senatorum Imperialis. Known to the Primarchs as loyal servants, these 2 began to lay the groundwork for an organization that would combat the efforts of the 2 dissidents and all other heretics who threatened the Imperium from within, without, and beyond the veil of reality. Thus, the seeds of the Inquisition were sown. With the support of the surviving loyalist Primarchs, including the new Imperial Regent and Lord Commander of the Imperium Guilliman, the 2 initial Inquisitors revealed themselves to the High Lords of Terra. They began recruiting like-minded individuals from among the adepts and warriors on Terra. Their vision of an organization dedicated to the Emperor's protection would not be fully realized in their lifetimes, even with the extension provided by arcane technologies. The Inquisition, as it is known today, did not fully materialize until the 32nd millennium, by which time the Imperium and its many institutions were expanding across the galaxy anew. During this period, Promius and Moriana were not idle. In the wake of the Emperor's ascension, they gathered followers, particularly among the cults and sects that were emerging on many worlds claiming the Emperor's deification. Eventually, Moriana and Promius parted ways, still sharing the same goal, but with Moriana determined to use any means necessary to achieve it. Fearing that Moriana would unleash unspeakable powers of chaos to achieve her aim, Promius created a small army of dedicated followers to combat the threat he believed she posed. These two factions clashed numerous times until Promius's disciples prevailed and Moriana vanished, likely into the Eye of Terror. As the Inquisition grew and extended its influence further from Terra, it encountered the Promians. Several hundred standard years had passed since the fateful First Conclave, and even then the Inquisition, a confederacy of individuals rather than a single entity, was pursuing various agendas. The original mission to prevent the Emperor's reincarnation had been diluted over the centuries. When the Promians were discovered fighting against a chaos threat, they were brought back into the imperial fold. Neither the Inquisitors who contacted the sect nor the Promians themselves realized the irony of their cooperation, thus creating the first resurrectionist faction within the Inquisition. Since the Inquisition lacks a formal hierarchy or leadership, each Inquisitor is free to pursue the mission of humanity's survival in whatever manner they deem appropriate. Like-minded individuals often come together to investigate areas of mutual interest or concern, usually within the bounds of one of the many inquisitorial ordos. These ordos fluctuate in size and focus over time, as many inquisitors move freely between them based on where they perceive the greatest need. For example, when demonic activity rises, the Ordo Malleus expands. During times of internal heresy, the Ordo Hereticus grows accordingly. Some ordos may remain dormant for standard years, existing only as historical curiosities until their field of study becomes relevant once more. However, certain perils, specifically those posed by demons, xenos, and heretics, are constant threats. Consequently, the ordos dedicated to combating these dangers, Ordo Malleus, Ordo Xenos, and Ordo Hereticus, are considered Ordos Majoris, as their vigilance is perpetual. There are also many Ordos Minoris, smaller branches focused on more transient dangers to humanity. An inquisitor's association with an ordo is not a matter of strict allegiance, as the ordos are no more structured than the Inquisition itself. This affiliation does not preclude involvement in matters related to another ordo. There is no formal demarcation. Inquisitors investigate and act as they see fit. Many inquisitors argue that compartmentalizing the enemies of mankind would be a grave mistake, as the lines between different threats are often indistinct. For instance, a mutation plague might stem from an alien infestation, or a surge in psychers could herald an impending demonic incursion. Membership in an ordo signifies an area of interest or study. If an inquisitor declares themselves part of the Ordo Malleus, their peers will understand that their focus includes demonic matters. No approval is required for this declaration, as inquisitors have no superiors except those they choose to acknowledge. There are sometimes informal hierarchies within an ordo. As an inquisitor becomes more accomplished and knowledgeable, they earn esteem among their peers and may be granted titles like Grand Master by common consent. These titles are marks of respect rather than absolute authority. Other inquisitors may defer to a colleague's experience and reputation, but are not obligated to do so. Within an ordo, individual fields of endeavor rarely overlap completely, given the vast potential for study and investigation each branch encompasses. Despite this, inquisitors sometimes form loose associations known as conclaves. A conclave is convened at the request of a respected inquisitor who seeks to combine the skills, knowledge, and resources of their peers to confront a threat too great for a single inquisitor to handle, such as an orkwag, a large-scale demonic incursion, or a widespread heresy. Typically, a conclave involves members of a single ordo, but it is not uncommon for a conclave to include multiple branches of the Inquisition if the situation warrants it. Members of the conclave usually do not take martial command, leaving that to the leaders of the requisitioned imperial military forces. However, the conclave often sends a representative to oversee military actions, ensuring that the mission's focus is maintained during combat. If necessary, this representative will assume command of the entire mission, though most Inquisitors prefer to remain in the background while the Emperor's armies carry out their bloody work. The Holy Orders of the Emperor's Inquisition, formerly known as the Inquisition, is a vast organization tasked with interpreting the divine will of the Emperor. This duty applies regardless of the specific ordo to which an Inquisition agent belongs. Interpretations of the Emperor's will can vary significantly both within and outside the Ordus Majoris, leading to the formation of various factions. These factions are highly political and consist of individuals sharing a common belief system. Regardless of the Inquisition's stated purpose or desired methodology, whether combating heretics, witches, demons, or aliens. While the number and nature of these factions can be broad and ever-changing, certain dominant belief systems shape the Inquisition's political structure. Disagreements between different ordos or conclaves are rare due to their clearly defined areas of interest. However, within a specific ordo, Inquisitors often clash over the methods used to combat their enemies. Some believe in using the enemy's weapons, such as employing sorcery against demons, while others see such actions as a betrayal of the imperial creed, risking corruption for dubious gain. These disagreements are often framed as conflicts between radical and Puritan philosophies, but the reality is far more nuanced. The distinction is not absolute but relative, shaped by the observer's subjective opinion. Few Inquisitors label themselves as radicals or Puritans, though they are quick to categorize others. For example, an Ordo Malleus Inquisitor might condemn a colleague as a radical for using forbidden chaos law to bind a demon, not realizing that others view them as equally dangerous for merely consulting a blasphemous tome. Similarly, within the Ordo Xenos, some Inquisitors consider learning an alien language perilous, while others see no issue in hiring Xenos mercenaries to fight their battles. In the Inquisition, truth is often relative. The Inquisition structure means there is no higher authority to appeal to when an Inquisitor believes a colleague has strayed from the correct path. If enough evidence is gathered, it might be presented before a conclave to seek a judgment of excommunicate traitoris. More often, however, an Inquisitor must handle the matter personally. Given the fine line between unnecessary and necessary evils, few Inquisitors willingly get involved in disputes between their peers. Every disagreement risks creating division within the Inquisition, so it is preferable to keep such matters as personal quarrels. Most of the time, these disagreements resolve themselves or are overshadowed by genuine threats. However, sometimes they escalate into open conflict between Inquisitors and their followers. The ideological struggle between radical and Puritan is not a simple battle between right and wrong, as such clear-cut definitions rarely apply to an Inquisitor's work. Radical methods can save millions, just as the rigid approach of Puritans can doom them. Unfortunately, the outcome can only be judged in hindsight. An Inquisitor might use the knowledge in the Grimoire Malefact, a tome of chaos sorcery, to close a warp rift. But in doing so, they risk their soul to chaos. Puritans argue such risks are unnecessary and prefer other methods even if the delay dooms worlds. In this scenario, the radical method might seem correct. But if the grimoire's reader becomes possessed by a demon, causing more destruction than the rift, the radical approach proves disastrous. It's no wonder most Inquisitors adhere to a single belief, for doubting one's actions leads to paralysis, trapped in a sea of possibilities, fearing the wrong choice. Today, the Inquisition is divided into a series of organizations known as ordos. Each ordo is responsible for assessing and combating a threat to humanity. There are 3 ordos majoris, devoted to combating threats to the Imperium from within, without, and beyond. Ordo Malleus, known as the Demon Hunters or the Order of the Hammer. The Ordo Malleus is dedicated to defending the very soul of mankind. Their primary focus is on defeating enemies that dwell in the warp, the enemy beyond, including demons and other servants of chaos. They devote every waking hour to discovering and eradicating these creatures wherever they are found. Members of the Ordo Malleus are often seasoned warriors, as demons cannot be defeated through espionage or trickery, only through the blessed blade and purified flame. However, knowledge is their principal weapon. Agents of the Ordo Malleus are scholars of demonic lore and understand how to shackle and bind warpspawn. Militarily, the Ordo Malleus is the most formidable branch of the Inquisition, as its agents can call upon the Grey Knights, their chamber militant, for assistance. The Grey Knights are Space Marines of Chapter 666, exclusively dedicated to slaying demons and always ready to support the Ordo Malleus in their war against chaos. Ordo Xenos, also known as the Alien Hunters, or the Order of the Aliens, the Ordo Xenos is devoted to investigating, cataloguing, and defeating the Xenos threat, the enemy without. They actively seek out and eliminate alien influence and corruption within the Imperium. Agents of the Ordo Xenos are often the most eccentric, as they spend years, even decades, traveling and living in non-human space, learning everything they can to exploit or eliminate the alien races they encounter. Consequently, many Ordo Xenos Inquisitors have strong ties with rogue traders and often travel with retinues of alien mercenaries or travelers. Most speak numerous non-human languages and have acquaintances and informants far beyond the Imperium's boundaries. Despite this, the Ordo Xenos has more blood on its hands than any other branch of the Inquisition. Like the Ordo Malleus, the Ordo Xenos can call upon its own chamber militant, the Death Watch. Formed long ago by an agreement between a conclave of Inquisitor Lords and an esteemed group of Space Marine chapter masters, the Death Watch is composed entirely of veteran Space Marines from the greatest chapters in the galaxy. They are trained and equipped to repel the alien tide threatening humanity, making them an invaluable tool for any Inquisitor fighting the Xenos threat. Ordo Hereticus, also known as the Witch Hunters, or the Order of the Heretics, the Ordo Hereticus is dedicated to combating traitors, witches, mutants, rogue psychers, and heretics. Their focus is on threats arising from within the great bulk of humanity, the enemy within. The witch hunters of the Ordo Hereticus are sinister, feared individuals, often pale from long days spent in Inquisition fortresses, excruciation chambers, or poring over ancient texts about heretics and their machinations. The arrival of an Ordo Hereticus Inquisitor is met with trepidation and awe, as no one knows where their suspicions might land. In addition to monitoring the ecclesiarchy to ensure wars of faith do not exceed their mandate, and that its cardinals do not amass excessive power, the Ordo Hereticus keeps a close eye on many other imperial organizations. The Adeptus Arbites, the Adeptus Astartes, the Adeptus Sororitas, and fellow members of the Inquisition. They monitor doctrinal and physical purity, and no one is beyond their jurisdiction. The Ordo Hereticus can also call upon their own chamber militant, the Sisters of Battle, the all-female warrior branch of the Adepta Sororitas. It's worth noting that some freelance Inquisitors operate independently of any specific branch of the Inquisition. Additionally, several minor orders have more specialized purposes than those outlined above. While the three major orders of the Ordus Majoris are well known and well established, there are several smaller orders responsible for specific aspects of the Imperium. In theory, these minor orders possess the same rank and power as the Ordo Hereticus, Ordo Xenos, and Ordo Malleus. However, in practice, they rarely have access to the same level of resources as the larger orders. These Ordos Minoris are significantly smaller and are often established to combat specific threats rather than broad ones. Some oversee the ranks of assassin death cults, while others manage the workings of the Black Ships. There are persistent rumors of Inquisition Ordos that monitor the officers of the Astra Militarum and Navis Imperialis, and others whose sole mission is to purge the ranks of the Inquisition itself. Most of these minor ordos are largely unknown, even to other members of the Inquisition. Many are little more than cabals of Inquisitors united against a common threat in a specific region of the galaxy, while others function as specialized sub-ordos of the Ordus Majoris. Some Nearly unknown ordos may focus on matters so esoteric or specialized that they remain entirely unknown to their peers. Below are some notable ordos minoris. Ordo Chronos. This mysterious and incredibly obscure ordo was formed to investigate the potential ramifications of time travel through the warp, particularly the potential for deliberate manipulation of this phenomenon. This now defunct ordo disappeared under mysterious circumstances, and their eventual return remains the subject of legend among the few who know they ever existed. Ordo Hydra. This ordo was an extremist offshoot of the secret society known as the Illuminati, dedicated to using extreme measures to destroy the existence of chaos in the universe. It was composed mainly, but not entirely, of Illuminati who were also inquisitors, some of whom occupied extremely high ranks within the Inquisition. Often cited as an ordo minoris, the Ordo Hydra was more accurately an inquisitorial cabal rather than a group combating a specific threat. They were defeated by the actions of the Inquisitor Jack Draco, who prevented them from executing a plot to unite all of humanity as a single hive mind. This was intended to give mankind the ability to destroy the Chaos Gods, but was more likely to result in the birth of a fifth major Chaos God, which would render the human species extinct and ensure the final victory of chaos. Ordo Machinum, also known as the Judicators of the Forge, the Ordo Machinum scrutinizes the Adeptus Mechanicus. They are particularly concerned with the reintegration of recovered STC variants into the Imperium's armies and the rare adoptions of alien technologies into established Mechanicus protocols. Inquisitors of the Ordo Machinum often accompany Adeptus Mechanicus tech archaeological teams to distant worlds to see firsthand what has been recovered. They often work in concert with the Ordo Xenos, especially when the world in question has been under alien control or there is any suggestion of non-human origin for the technology the Adeptus Mechanicus seeks to recover. Ordo Militum. This ordo monitors the Imperium's military bodies, such as the Astra Militarum, the Navis Imperialis, the Officio Prefectus, the Militarum Tempestus, the sanctioned psychers of the Adeptus Astra Telepathica, the Adeptus Astartes, although see below, and together with the Ordo Hereticus, the Adepta Sororitas. Ordo Obsoletus. The Ordo Obsoletus is tasked with monitoring and validating unexplained phenomena and miracles said to have occurred across the Imperium. Since the Dark Gods, especially Tzeentch, are not above sacrificing whole hosts of their mortal servants to ensure that a plot comes to fruition, it is the duty of the Ordo Obsoletus to investigate whether a miracle is a genuine manifestation of the Emperor's will or yet another convoluted Xenos or chaos deception. Events such as the appearance of the Legion of the Damned and the reappearances of Lord Varlak after his incineration on Korsk II, then again on Necromunda, and a third time on Vanna 21, are their area of expertise. While often cited as an Ordo Minoris, this is mere conjecture. It is possible that the Ordo Obsoletus is not, strictly speaking, an ordo at all, but a regional inquisitorial conclave that refers to itself as an ordo. Ordo Originatus. This ordo is devoted to unraveling 10,000 Terran years of myths, exaggerations, and lies within the Imperium's historical records. This task is extremely challenging, made even more difficult by the counter-efforts of the Ordo Redactus. However, their work has recently been aided by the establishment of the Logos Historica Verita, a group of historitors trained by the resurrected Primarch and Imperial Regent, Guilliman, during the era Indomitus to seek the truth about humanity's history since the Horus Heresy. Ordo Redactus. This ordo focuses on deliberately obscuring the past and redacting records that they believe might corrupt the minds of the weak or provide the enemies of mankind with an advantage. The resurrection of Primarch Guilliman and his commitment to uncovering an accurate chronology of mankind's past since the end of the Horus Heresy has greatly complicated the Ordo Redactus's efforts. The Ordo Redactus now quietly opposes the Ordo Originatus and the Logos Historica Verita wherever they can without revealing their hand. Ordo Scriptorum, also known as the Unsleeping Eye, the Ordo Scriptorum is one of 17 ordos based on Terra, dedicated to examining and investigating records and communiques. This task is far from trivial. The Imperium's colossal bureaucracy often loses or misfiles vital information. The Ordo Scriptorum intercepts some of these failures, and even one interception can make the difference between life and death for billions. The mere rumor that an Inquisitor is supervising a scribe's work can galvanize more careful practices, reducing errors. Ordo Sepulturum, one of the smallest and newest of the Ordos Minoris, formed during the 13th Black Crusade. This ordo focuses on understanding and combating the threat posed by undead plague zombies, poxwalkers, and the Nurgle-spawned zombie plague and walking pox, Ordo Sicarius, founded by the legendary Inquisitor Jaeger following the deadly events of the Reign of Blood during the Age of Apostasy in the 36th millennium. The Ordo Sicarius is tasked with investigating, moderating and controlling the Officio Assassinorum. Since Jaeger's reforms, no Imperial assassin can be deployed without the majority approval of the High Lords of Terror. This is often impractical, so Inquisitors of the Ordo Sicarius sometimes sanction the Officio Assassinorum under the guise of an edict from Terror. While some see this as an abuse of power, such measures are essential to maintain a level of active response necessary to face the myriad threats to mankind. Ordo Maledictum, an Ordo Minoris created during the Era Indomitus. Its members seek any means to drive back or close the Great Rift. Another minor ordo, whose name is unknown, focuses on developing methods to limit the independence of the Adeptus Astartes. Founded during the Horus Heresy, it has since been nearly forgotten. Be silent. They are the eye that sleepeth not. Mention their name again and they will appear, and when they do, death will be the least of your worries. We are all sinners here, even the pure. Harker Dunn, Forge Labourer. The Inquisition wields immense power, with only the Emperor himself beyond its reach. An Inquisitor, if warranted, can demand service from any Imperial citizen, including the High Lords of Terror. While the Adeptus Custodes, who protect the Emperor, are exempt from conscription due to their unwavering duty, Inquisitors often tread carefully with the Adeptus Astartes. Space Marine chapters are fiercely protective of their autonomy granted by the Emperor, and any perceived infringement can lead to conflict. Nonetheless, the Adeptus Astartes are not beyond the Inquisition's scrutiny and justice. Entire worlds have been annihilated if deemed traitorous. Inquisitors possess absolute authority to judge and execute alleged heretics, mutants, unsanctioned or rogue psychers, with no recourse except intervention by another Inquisitor. Typically, all possible verdicts result in death, though the methods vary. Traitors, considered the worst offenders, are executed swiftly. Heretics might be redeemed after extensive torture and granted absolution through death in service to the Imperium. Such service could include arco-flagellation, conscription into Imperial armies operating the Adeptus Ministerum's penitent engines, or for penitent psychers being sent to Terra to fuel the Golden Throne and the Astronomicon. In extremely rare instances, useful traitors may be mind-scrubbed, erasing their memories and identity to instill loyalty to the Inquisition. If tracking and eliminating a particular individual or organization proves unfeasible, an Inquisitor can declare them excommunicate traitoris, stripping them of all rights and marking them for extermination by loyal servants of the Emperor. When necessary, an Inquisitor can attach an official stigma to a dangerous heretic, traitor, or alien species. Each major ordo has its own stigma for its primary enemies: Extremis, Diabolis for the Ordo Malleus, Xenos Horrificus for the Ordo Xenos, and Hereticus Abomini for the Ordo Hereticus. The Inquisition also uses its authority from the High Lords of Terror to declare tainted Space Marine chapters or other renegade Imperial military units excommunicate traitoris. These units are then hunted by the Grey Knights or the Sisters of Battle, typically forcing the chapter to flee to the Eye of Terror or the Maelstrom. The Soul Drinkers. Chapter was an exception, continuing to defend the Imperium despite being excommunicated, believing themselves still loyal to the Emperor until their ultimate destruction. Young psychers, if not yet corrupted or heavily using their powers, are tested rigorously. If they are strong, young, and pious, they may be taken by the black ships of the Inquisition to become sanctioned psychers, or even Inquisitors if their abilities are exceptional. The requirements are stringent and many are found wanting. Those who fail the tests are either executed or used to power the Astronomicon, their lives sacrificed to sustain the Golden Throne and the Emperor's survival. If a planet falls under severe corruption by chaos or a Xenos infestation like that of a Djinn Stealer's cult, an Inquisitor might declare exterminatus, annihilating all life and ecosystems, leaving the world barren. The necessity of such drastic measures is often questioned, but the Inquisition believes such actions are fully justified. They argue that it is preferable to sacrifice countless loyal servants of the Emperor rather than allow a single heretic to escape and potentially endanger more lives. However, exterminatus is typically reserved for only the most dire situations, such as a significant outbreak of chaos that threatens to spread to other worlds or unchecked infiltration by Djinn Stealers cults which could precede or cause a tyrannid invasion that might devastate an entire sector. An Inquisitor also holds the power to declare an individual, an organization, or even an entire planet as excommunicate traitoris. This declaration exiles the accused from the human race, signaling other Inquisitors and Imperial authorities to hunt and eliminate them for the greater good of the Imperium. Inquisitorial conclaves frequently serve as the venues for such declarations, and in extreme cases, even a fellow Inquisitor can be branded excommunicate traitoris. Excommunication is never done lightly, but it remains a crucial tool of the Inquisition, embodying one of the key ways its authority protects the Imperium. These demons, they hate us with a malevolence and intensity beyond words. It is their nature, their purpose to worm their way through the skin of reality and unleash horror upon our realm. Yet, just as they are but puppets of their dark masters, so they can also act as puppeteers. They take the minds and souls of potent psychers, brave warriors, cunning generals and devoted healers, and they twist all that might benefit humanity. Their poison spreads until the Imperium's greatest champions become instead its most terrible foes. Chaos peers into the collective human soul and uses what it finds to turn us against ourselves. That, acolyte, is why it is the greatest danger we face. Inquisitor Lorcus Frecht. To shield its citizens from the seductive dangers of chaos, the Imperium of Man historically endeavored to keep the existence of the Chaos Gods, demons and Chaos Space Marines hidden from public awareness. Only select Space Marines, sanctioned psychers and members of the Inquisition were privy to this dire secret. For a long time, it was inquisitorial policy to mind-wipe even the Adeptus Astartes, including entire chapters after encounters with the demonic. Others exposed to chaos were either executed to prevent potential corruption, or, if deemed valuable to the Imperium, subjected to memory modification or, in extreme cases, a complete mind wipe. This policy has been in place since before the Emperor of Mankind was confined to the Golden Throne. During the Great Crusade, only the Emperor and his Primarchs knew that the warp contained intelligent entities capable of possession. However, the Emperor did not disclose to his Primarchs that the warp was not just a chaotic sea of psychic energies, but home to malevolent intelligences akin to the supernatural beings of ancient human myth. The Emperor feared that revealing the true nature of the ruinous powers and their demonic servants might lead some Primarchs to actions that could result in their corruption. Confronting a demon army means facing an ever-changing maelstrom of horror and despair, which forever alters those who witness it. Therefore, the Imperium believes that the mere knowledge of such foes can start an individual's descent into damnation. Human survivors of demonic conflicts were typically confronted by inquisitorial agents and subjected to mind wipes, lifelong quarantine in forced labor camps, or, in extreme cases, became the subjects of a planetary exterminatus event. Over the millennia, countless warp-based disasters and demonic invasions have occurred. Since the inception of the Inquisition post-Horus Heresy, the very possibility of such events has been deemed too perilous for the Imperium's citizens to know, as such knowledge breeds heresy as surely as a decaying corpse breeds maggots. Consequently, the majority of information about demonic incursions has been expunged from public Imperial records. What remains is documented only in forbidden Imperial texts and heretical Xenos scripts that the Inquisition has yet to destroy. However, following the opening of the Great Rift at the dawn of the Era Indomitus, This policy of secrecy has been somewhat relaxed, at least for the Adeptus Astartes, due to necessity. Prior to the Great Rift, most Astartes were expected to be as ignorant of demons' existence as any other imperial citizen. Despite this, by the end of the 41st millennium, it was rare to find an Astartes who hadn't faced demons. The Inquisition was known to mind-wipe entire chapters after certain incidents, although some, like the Space Wolves, fiercely resisted such intrusions on their autonomy. In the era Indomitus, with the galaxy split in half by the birth of the Cicatrix Maledictum, demonic incursions have become so frequent and space marine responses so essential that suppressing knowledge of demons among the Astartes has become impractical. The Inquisition operates without a formal organizational structure, relying fundamentally on the authority and competence of individual inquisitors and their teams of acolytes and throne agents. Each inquisitor represents the entirety of the Inquisition and wields absolute power as granted by the inquisitorial mandate. An inquisitor's word is unquestionable except by other inquisitors, making the Inquisition self-regulating. It was once believed that the Ordo Malleus oversaw the policing of the Inquisition, but this concept has been largely abandoned. Now, members from each Ordo, particularly the Ordo Hereticus, often take on the role of monitoring their peers for any rogue elements. Despite the absence of a formal hierarchy, various inquisitorial groupings exist, though membership is not compulsory. For instance, an inquisitor might choose not to join an Ordo, but this decision would limit their access to the Ordo's resources. Inquisitors are generally expected to announce their presence to the head of the inquisitorial conclave overseeing their sector or region, though many prefer to operate in secrecy. The solitary nature of an inquisitor's work often means that after parting ways with their mentor, they might never encounter another inquisitor. In remote regions of the galaxy where imperial presence is sparse, small offshoots of the Inquisition may exist without contact with Terra for years, centuries, or even millennia. These isolated groups may develop new philosophies or sustain older factions, even if the broader Inquisition has moved on from them. Addressing threats that perhaps no other Inquisitor has faced before, these independent Inquisitors and cells can be seen as either dangerous or beneficial, and history has shown them to be both. Over generations, the mission and purpose of Inquisitors can become distorted, either through intentional manipulation or the natural progression of knowledge from one individual to another. There have been instances of open conflict between the Inquisition and these groups, with neither side fully understanding the true nature of their adversaries. Such conflicts rarely end well, prompting prominent Inquisitors to maintain contact with as many peers as possible to avoid such confrontations. Although some Inquisitors may lead a solitary fight against the darkness threatening humanity, most will eventually meet other Inquisitors either during their duties or at specially convened conclaves. Conclaves are formal gatherings of two or more Inquisitors convened for various reasons. Most conclaves are short, lasting a few solar days and attended by only a few Inquisitors to address a specific matter. Some, known as high conclaves, can extend for several weeks and cover multiple related topics, with attendance possibly reaching several dozen Inquisitors depending on the scope of discussion. In theory, any Inquisitor can convene a conclave, but only an Inquisitor Lord has the authority to call a high conclave. In practice, it is the more experienced and well-connected Inquisitors who have the means and communication networks to assemble such gatherings. Most conclaves focus on either inquisitorial remit or factional agenda. Those convened under the inquisitorial remit may include inquisitors from various factions, and high conclaves fall exclusively within this category. Such a gathering of inquisitors can only be necessitated by an urgent or significant reason. On these occasions, the diverse viewpoints offered by inquisitors with different perspectives are not only desirable, but almost essential to reach a proper consensus for action. Factional conclaves, on the other hand, are called to discuss matters relevant to the beliefs of the faction members and may have little pertinence or interest to inquisitors outside the faction. For instance, the Thorians may convene every few standard years to share information about possible divine vessels. new theories related to various facets of Thorianism, or to exchange new knowledge. The primary purpose of most conclaves is the flow of information, to warn others of a new threat, discuss recent events, and pass on news of success or failure. This information sharing is followed by debate as the inquisitors decide upon a course of action. Consensus is not essential since inquisitors understand that different approaches to the same problems will yield different results. However, being aware of other inquisitors' activities in a certain area or against a specific threat can avoid confusion and confrontation later. A conclave is convened by one of two means, either through open invitation to any inquisitors or by a more selective invite. The first method is used if a serious threat arises, requiring all inquisitors in the neighboring sectors to be aware of it, and if necessary, abandon their current missions to focus on the new menace. The second method is likely if the inquisitor calling the conclave knows others who can bring specific skills or knowledge to the meeting and seeks guidance or further information. Given the nature of communication and travel in the Imperium, gathering even half a dozen specific individuals in one place at a certain time requires that most conclaves are limited to a few hundred light-years and must be planned in advance. High conclaves dealing with the most grave matters brought to the Inquisition's attention can be convened on shorter timescales if needed, as astropaths send urgent messages to inquisitors across a wider area. High conclaves are sometimes ongoing affairs that may see several dozen inquisitors respond to the call, though perhaps less than half will be present on any given day, as they arrive or depart according to the tides of the warp. Except for high conclaves, which must be held on one of the Inquisition fortress worlds strategically placed across the Imperium, conclaves can be convened almost anywhere. Secrecy necessitates secure locations, and more experienced inquisitors may maintain or acquire estates, libraries, or bases where conclaves can be held. One of the most serious reasons for a conclave is adjudication between two inquisitors. An inquisitor is judged only by their peers, and for an inquisitor to be brought to trial, a fellow inquisitor must act as prosecutor. In these situations, an inquisitor lord will convene the conclave, often with the accused in absentia, and a panel of 3 or more inquisitors will hear the case. Such a conclave can find an inquisitor negligent, incompetent, or worse. The greatest sentence handed down by these conclaves is the declaration of excommunicate traitoris. The inquisitor is found to be a heretic and is to be hunted down at all costs. It is known for inquisitors to declare another inquisitor a traitor without recourse to a conclave, as may be necessary to prevent a deviant from escaping or when physical conflict is imminent. In such cases, a conclave of inquiry is held after events have unfolded. Sometimes these conclaves occur long after the lifetime of the accused or the accuser, and the judgment must be based on whatever evidence remains. Given the flexible mission of the Inquisition and the individuals within its ranks, such trial conclaves are limited in the punishments they can mete out on the guilty. One cannot simply stop being an inquisitor, so censures and other threats carry little weight. Most often, the guilty party may be subjected to further examination, an unpleasant experience, which usually provides enough incentive for an inquisitor to re-examine their priorities and agenda. One notable conclave is Calixian conclave. As with many others throughout the Imperium, the Calixian conclave has a long and labyrinthine history. This ancient establishment has gathered many resources over the years, ranging from small safe houses on distant planets to mighty fortresses like the Tricorn Officio on the sector capital world of Scintilla. Froses, secret libraries, ancient pacts, and even entire merchant companies are in the control of the conclave, though many would be hard-pressed to find any evidence of such a thing. There are also numerous hidden heresies and forbidden episodes buried within the annals of the conclave. The symbol of the Calixian conclave is a golden chalice. At inquisitorial gatherings, an ornate version of this chalice is often displayed upon a table, plinth, or other prominent position. Tradition holds that it should be filled only halfway with clear liquid. The mythology of the conclave holds that this is either a draught from the well of knowledge or the waters of forgetfulness. The original charter in which this detail was recorded has been lost, and copies of the tattered manuscript seem to contradict one another. Darker whispers from the more radical elements of the conclave whisper that the symbolic cup is in fact the chalice of corruption, a warning to those who would taste the mysteries locked within the Calixis sector's apocalyptic fate. A cabal is a rare body instituted by a conclave and dedicated to investigating a particular matter. They form a specialist task force charged with the prosecution of a particular concern. Generally, they gather inquisitors from varied backgrounds and philosophies, all working together via their differing methods and focused on a single goal. Cabals are despised by many, who see them as secret societies or unnecessary inner factions within a particular conclave. However, they have been shown to be a highly effective tool. By combining and focusing the activities of varied inquisitors on a particular scheme, cabals have often achieved noteworthy successes. One notable cabal is Tyrantine Cabal. The Tyrantine Cabal of inquisitors within the Calixis sector serves as an example of a large and comparatively close-knit group. The ominous threat of the much-prophesied Tyrant Star, a strange apparition that signals great disaster, has compelled inquisitors to join forces. This mysterious phenomenon, appearing seemingly at random throughout the sector, has thus far eluded the Tyrantine's attempts to track or predict its patterns. Whenever events begin to signal the Tyrant Star's arrival, such as mass riots, dreams of a sun shrouded in darkness, natural disasters, or unprecedented psychic phenomena, nearby inquisitors and acolytes hasten to witness the occurrence. They record their observations, share the collected data with other cabal members, and engage in extensive debates to analyze the findings. Inquisitors also have the valuable resource of their fellow inquisitors. Occasionally, they may encounter another member of their organization or specifically request assistance from a comrade. These collaborations are typically temporary and short-lived. However, consistent cooperation can lead to the formation of enduring relationships, resulting in a growing group of inquisitors who regularly communicate and support each other. When inquisitors share common goals, they often form cells. These cells are factional in nature and serve not only to advance the overall mission of the Inquisition, but also to further the specific agendas of the inquisitors involved. Some cells may only last a few standard years, as their duties may take them to different worlds. The inquisitors may never meet again, although sometimes a cell will continue to communicate sporadically over many years and vast distances. In time, a cell may grow to include a dozen or more inquisitors who occasionally work together and share information. Cells are often formed to address a specific problem, such as a demonic manifestation. When a similar threat arises again, an inquisitor may call upon their old cell to confront the new menace. Thus, a cell may lie dormant for standard years or even solar decades before being reactivated. Due to the secretive nature of the Inquisition, cells operate with a strong emphasis on security and protection from outside recognition. Many inquisitors do not work openly, making it difficult to identify another inquisitor. At some point, as suspicions are aroused, an inquisitor must decide whether to reveal their identity, risking discovery by a potential foe, but also potentially gaining an ally. When two covertly operating inquisitors encounter each other, their reaction is influenced by the manner of their meeting. To address this, all inquisitors carry an inquisitorial seal, which may be a pendant, signet ring, actual seal, or another accoutrement marked with a variation of the Inquisition's symbol. This seal serves as proof of the Inquisitor's authority, and if its veracity is doubted, it usually contains digitally encoded information to verify the bearer's identity, using technologies rarely seen outside the forge worlds of the Adeptus Mechanicus. Despite the occasional claim of inquisitorial status by traitors and other nefarious individuals to further their own ends, the Inquisition is relentless in hunting down these rogues. The severe and well-publicized punishments meted out to such impostors serve as a stark deterrent. The Inquisition's authority and trust must remain unchallenged, and inquisitors will go to great lengths to expose and punish frauds. An inquisitor's inquisitorial seal is not their only identifier. Their clothing and personal effects often contain subtle hints about their philosophy, allegiances, and contacts. Over 10,000 Terran years, a complex system of iconography has developed, containing many hidden meanings. These symbols can vary in meaning between different inquisitors and regions of the galaxy. This symbolism is not always a deliberate choice. The secretive nature of the Inquisition means much information is passed through written or spoken word, leading certain artifacts to symbolize a variety of meanings relevant to specific factions or orders. For instance, the Thorians used the skull symbol extensively to represent the Emperor in death. Skull buttons, cufflinks, tattoos, earrings, or other decorations may signal reverence and are recognizable in certain situations by other Thorians. However, the skull is not exclusively a Thorian symbol. It is widespread throughout the Imperium, imparting different meanings depending on context. In addition to the skull, Thorians may use other symbols like a scroll clasped in a hand or a broken lock, each carrying specific significance. Inquisitors are exceptionally observant and can often deduce much about another individual's affiliations and purpose before any words are exchanged. Cells of Inquisitors take this further by using agreed-upon symbols to identify themselves and their agents. These identifiers can be as subtle as specific stitching on clothing or as overt as a particular style of ring or brooch. These methods allow Inquisitors to cooperate with allies without revealing their identities or compromising their security. Some cells, especially those operating covertly and investigating powerful Imperial officials, may also use unique languages or code speak. Inquisitors learn various codes and battle tongues during their training and often develop their own secret languages to communicate securely with their teams. The cell's effectiveness relies on keeping its members' identities secure. Agents might not know all their master's allies, and Inquisitors may not know which individuals are agents of their allies, bystanders, or enemies. The use of visual and linguistic codes allows Inquisitors to signal their loyalties and identify trusted agents without compromising their security. Agents are informed of others working with their master, but typically know only through a layer of intermediaries. This ensures that they are unaware of the ultimate authority directing their actions, maintaining operational security. It is not uncommon for Inquisitors to disguise themselves as lesser functionaries, even when dealing directly with their agents. Cells operate as long as the specific threat exists, sometimes spanning several years. They may consist of Inquisitors who have never met in person, but who share a common goal. Once the threat is dealt with, the cell may disband, though the knowledge and experiences shared will remain with the Inquisitors involved.